Let's make a skirt together. Hello and welcome back. Today I want to walk you through step by step on how I crocheted the wrap skirt and then also how I crocheted the regular skirt, as I will call them. I will do both because they are very similar to each other, so I thought I will just include them in one video. I will section everything off from the point on where they are different, so it's easier for you to skip around. I think it's a very cute project. It's a super beginner friendly project, and it was also a lot of fun making, especially when I was on the go, because it's very mindless. You have to do the same thing for a long time, so you can just crochet away without a thought in mind. I really like that. As always, I would love to know if any one of you makes one for themselves. Let me know what colors you chose, and yeah, send me a message or a photo if you like on any of my socials, and I'd say let's get right into it. Alright, let's talk materials. So I would recommend to use any yarn that you feel is nice for summer. So anything that is super thick I don't think will work, because I think you will probably wear this skirt more in summer. What I used for the blue version was a 100% cotton, and for the beige version I actually don't really know what this is because the label doesn't say, but I have already made quite a few summer pieces with this, so I know I like this on my body when it's getting hot outside. Other than yarn, you are going to need a crochet hook, and what I always like to do is size up my hook size to what is recommended on the yarn. So when I look at the label from the blue yarn, it is recommended a hook size that's between a 3 and a 3.5 millimeter hook, but what I am going to use is a 4.5. What that does is makes the garment a little bit more flowy because you are using a bigger hook and the stitches are not as tight. That is just a preference that I use for most of my projects. Also, it works up a little quicker, which I always like, but you choose what you feel most comfortable with. Other than that, you're probably gonna need some scissors, and if you like a needle to weave in the ends, and that's it for materials. Okay, here's the game plan. First up, the wrap skirt. The skirt has two main parts, a really long rectangle and then the waistband with the ties. The regular skirt is also constructed with a rectangle that is much shorter though, and a slightly different waistband. Alright, time to crochet. So both types of skirts start the exact same way and are going to be the same way for a really long time. So I'm going to walk you through it. What I am going to start with is a slip knot, and I like to do it like this. And I'm going to show you and explain a little, and I'm going to show it a little bit slower. So I have the end in my right hand, and I'm going to take the longer part and cross it over to create this loop like this. So the longer tail is on top, and then with my thumb and index finger I'm going from underneath this loop, grabbing through, holding onto the end piece but still holding it like this, putting that through the loop, and now I can just pull on the longer piece and I have a slip knot. That is what I'm going to put around my hook and tighten it around the hook. And then I'm going to start a chain that is going to be as long as I want the skirt to be. For this I'm yarning under and pulling it through the loop on my hook. For especially the very first ones, be careful to not pull too hard on this string, because your knot is going to get smaller and smaller and then it's really difficult. But in general I like to hold the little end part with my middle finger and my thumb while working with it, because it is really flimsy from the start. So yarning under, pulling through, yarning under, pulling through. And that's what I'm going to do until I have the length that I want the skirt to be. All right, when you think you're about the length you want, I would suggest to look how it looks when you put it against your body. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. All right, and now's the time to decide if you want a high-rise, mid-rise or low-rise skirt. For this version, I'm going to go with a more mid to low rise. So that is where I'm going to be placing the chain and see if I like the length. I'm just letting it hang loosely, I'm not stretching it, to see if I like it. So if I want it a little bit longer, I will just add some chains. If I want it shorter, I will open up a few chains. But I think I like this length actually. What's really important is that you're not only checking the length of the skirt in front, but also always checking in the back where it would meet your legs, because it is needing a little bit more fabric in the back than in the front, and the panels are the same length all along. So just check if everything's covered that you want to be covered, especially when you make a very short version of the skirt. What's also nice to know is that for the wrap skirt, I'm not really adding a lot of length within the waistband, but for the regular skirt version, there's going to be a, I would say, 3 to 4 centimeter waistband that is adding to the length of the skirt in the end. So keep that in mind when you're choosing the length of your skirt. I like this length and I will continue with this now. So for the main panel of the skirt, you can really choose any stitch that you like. I'm going to use a half double crochet, but you can really switch it out with any type of stitch really. The only thing you would have to do is adjust the churning chain you are using for the stitch you are using, but I'm going to show you with a half double crochet. So I am going to chain one more as my turning chain for a half double crochet and then start with my first row. So I'm yarning over, inserting my hook into the very first stitch, and that means not in the chain that I used to use as my turning chain, but into the one next to it. So yarning over, getting it into that first space, yarning over, pulling through. Now I have 3 loops on my hook, yarning over, pulling through all 3. And that's what I'm going to do for the whole chain. 2 more times together. So yarning over, inserting my hook into the next stitch, yarning over, pulling through, and then yarning over, pulling through 3. One more time together, yarning over, into the next stitch, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through all 3. And that's what I'm going to do for the whole chain and actually for the whole panel. But I'm going to show you in the next row and how I get to the next row in a second. All right, I'm coming to an end of that very first row. I'm going to place my last stitch now, like this. So that first row is done. I'm going to chain 1 and then turn my work. And now I'm going to continue with half double crochets into each stitch. So yarning over, finding the very first stitch. So when you are looking from above, you can see these V shapes. And when you put it to the side, right under those V shapes, there's a space, and that's where you're going to insert the hook, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 of them. And that is how I'm going to do this row and the next probably 50 plus rows. It definitely takes a while to build up, but I think that is also a very nice thing. I'm going to show you one more time how I switch rows before meeting you when I'm done with the whole panel. Alright, so I'm at the end of row 2, and what you might want to do if you're just starting out is count the stitches as you go, so you don't accidentally drop or add a stitch while you are working with it. I feel like at the end of each row, it gets a little bit confusing if you are supposed to do one more or not. So maybe a little tip, if you are feeling like your project gets more narrow or wider, count your stitches if it's matching up with the very first chain you made. So I made my very last half double crochet into the last space. I am chaining one, turning my work like this, and then I'm going to continue with half double crochets in every single stitch. And I'm going to meet you when the skirt is wide enough to wrap around my body 1.5 times. So in this project, you will definitely get to a point where your skein of yarn is coming to an end. And in case you don't know how to switch to your next skein, or you want to make colorful skirt where you switch colors in between, I'm going to show you how I would switch to new yarn. So let's pretend this yarn is coming to an end right here. So I have this much yarn left. I am going to yarn over and insert my hook into the next stitch as I would normally with a half double crochet. And when I now yarn over to grab my old yarn, I will also place the new yarn on top of the hook and pull both of them through the loop. Now it looks like I have 4 loops on my hook. That is because one is the old one and the other one is the new one. So I have 1 more. And now I am just grabbing the new yarn and pulling it through all 3 loops on my hook. Now I have these 2 tails. It's the old yarn and then the end of the new yarn. And what I'm going to do is keep working with the new yarn and laying the 2 ends on top of my project, weaving them in as I go by just crocheting around them. So as you can see, I'm yarning over, inserting my hook. The 2 strands lay on top of the V shapes. I'm yarning over, pulling through, 3 loops on the hook, yarning over, pulling all 3 of them. And if I'm going to do that a couple more times, you will see that the ends are more and more incorporated into the project. And that's how you switch to new yarn. All right, after many rows, I am finally done with this panel. I'm going to show you when I stopped adding rows. So I'm going to put it to the side of myself and wrap myself around it 1.5 times, like this. And that's when I'm going to stop. So it's that simple. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do after that in a second. For the regular skirt version, the panel is going to be much shorter. And here I will check it against myself by wrapping myself in it again. And here it is important that the widest part of my hip is sitting comfortably within this panel. It doesn't matter if I want to wear it low rise, mid rise or high rise. For this one, for example, I want it to be high rise in the end. It's still the hip measurement that determines the length of this panel. Don't worry about the waist being too big for now, because when we are going to add the waistband and the strings that cinch everything together, it's gonna come together. Just so you can see, I am putting it to the side of myself and I still have plenty of room to move in, to walk. I'm also going to probably keep a little slip because I think it's cute, and it's also, I think, nice to be able to walk better. So yeah, that's how I'm going to leave that panel now. On to finishing off the panel and then the waistbands. Okay, so let's finish up the wrap skirt first. So I have 3 more stitches to go on that row, like this. So that's the last row done. So what you could do here now is either chain 1, snip the yarn and do the waistband separately. What I like to do if I still have quite a bit of yarn on my skein is immediately go into the waistband, and that's what I'm gonna do now. So I'm gonna put my panel sideways, so it goes like this. Also, don't worry about if the piece looks like it is getting bigger or smaller at some points. If you are doing the same amount of stitches each row, it is just probably because I was holding this piece a lot and stretching it, and then it stays like this for a little bit. So if it's doing that, that does not necessarily mean you messed up the stitches. So I just wanted to add that. So I came up with my last row around here, ended up here at this corner, and now this is going to be my waistband. After chaining 1 already, I'm going to insert my hook into the top part of the skirt. Now here's the thing, the stitches from the side are very clear. You have your V shape, you have your chain spaces you work into. If you are doing the waistband right here, there are not really clear choices to put your hook in. I always like to go by feeling where I'm going to put my hook and try to keep the same distance with each stitch so it gets even. So I'm building a base now with single crochet, so I have an easier time to build up my rows after that. So I'm inserting my hook into the chain space right here, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through 2. So doing a single crochet. Next up, I am going to go probably in here, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through 2. And I'm going to continue that for the whole side of this panel, always trying to keep the same distance as if they were regular stitches. So I'm at the last stitch of the row, and now I am going to chain 2 and flip my work. So I just went all the way to one side. So the next row for the waistband is going to be double crochets, because I want to create a little bit more of a looser part of the waistband where I can thread in the ties in the end. So for this I'm yarning over, inserting my hook into the first stitch, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through 2, yarning over, pulling through 2. Now you also have designated stitches you can work into, so you don't really have to decide a lot where to put your hook. So again, yarn over, next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. One more time together, like this. And as you can see here, you have a little bit of a bigger gap than, for example, with a single crochet or also a half double crochet. So here is where I'm going to be threading the ties through in the end, and I'm going to do double crochets for the rest of that row. Alright, I'm at the very last stitch of the row. So I finished my double crochets for that row. And now I'm starting to make the ties that tie the wrap skirt together. So for this, one side of the ties needs to be a lot longer than the other one, because it needs to wrap around your body until it meets the other side of the panel. And the other one is much shorter. I'm going to show you while having it on, actually. Okay, so I'm here with the skirt and I am done with the double crochet. So when I'm wrapping the skirt around like this, the two ends of the panels are like this to each other. So I have the point where I'm working on right now, and this tie needs to go around, up until here, where it would meet the other side of the panel. And I want to tie the skirt on this side at the end. So that means for this side of the panel, I need a much shorter chain to be able to tie it together in the end. So I will have to make a very long chain on this side that I'm working on right now, and a much shorter chain that is just there to make one knot and a cute bow, I think, and that would be it for the other side. So right now I'm going to chain the amount that I need to go around me, and then also enough to be able to make a knot and then tie. And then have a little bit left over because I think it looks cute. Alright, so here I am on the side that needs the long tie. So I am chaining the amount that I need to go around myself, and then some extra to do the knot and the tie. And to check, I will probably put it against myself and see if the tie or the chain is long enough. Okay, so I did the chain, and what I'm gonna do now is turn my work, go back that chain with a single crochet. So I'm inserting my hook, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through 2, and I'm gonna do that for every stitch until I meet the main part of the project, and there I will also continue with the single crochet until I am on the other side of the panel and can create the other part of the ties. But I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second when I get there. Okay, so I am back to where the main project is, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to work the single crochets down the main project. So the tie is going into the project like this. I'm going to do that up until I'm right back on the other side, and I'm going to meet you when I get there. I am on the other side of the project, and it's now time to do the other tie. So I did the long tie on the other side, so now it's time for the shorter one. So I'm just eyeballing however much I think I need for the tie to do its thing. So basically one knot and then a cute tie and a little bit left over to hang down. When I think now a tie, and then I think I want it to be like this big, and that's too short, so I'm gonna add a little more. Okay, that should be plenty. And I'm going to do the same as I did on the other side. I'm going to go back that row with single crochet. So I am back at the base. I am going to do 2 more single crochets so I secure the second tie with the main project, and then I'm gonna do a slip stitch. So I am inserting my hook, yarning over, pulling through, and then pulling through that first loop through the second one, and then chain 1. And I'm going to cut the yarn right here. So I'm gonna cut the yarn, pull through, pull it tight, and these are ends that need to be weaved in. And that's actually it for the wrap skirt. So every loose threads need to be weaved in, and I'm going to show you how I would tie the project. Alright, for the wrap skirt version, I'm gonna keep these pants on to make it a little bit easier for myself to show you. I'm starting to wrap it around myself as if I would normally wear it. So I want it to end up like this. So now on the inside I have the very long string, and I am stretching it a little bit and see where it meets the waistband, and at that point, or even a little bit further, is where I'm going to thread the long tie through so it gets to the outside of the project, so from the inside out. So now I can pull it and then wrap it around. I'm going to turn it a little bit and then come to the other side and do the tie with the other string. And then it's just a little bit of zhuzhing it around the way it fits best and the way you like it to look. It looks a little bit funny with the pants right now, but it's just easier to show without exposing myself. So that is the wrap skirt done. So for the regular skirt version, I am folding my panel in half and crocheting the side seams together. I'm not going to go all the way down to the end. I'm going to stop a little earlier because I want the skirt to have a little slit on the side. You can also close it up until the end. I think that will work perfectly as well. And here's how I'm going to do it. So starting off with a slip knot, I'm going to put it around my hook to have the right size like this and get my hook out again. Now that I have my project right here, I'm going to insert my hook into one corner, then insert my hook into the other corner, and now put the slip knot back onto my hook and pulling it through both. Now I'm chaining one, and from here on out I'm going to crochet the two pieces together. So I am inserting my hook into the next stitch from the first panel, then going into the next stitch of the second panel, yarning over, pulling through both, and then pulling the first loop through the second loop and slip stitching together both of the panels. There are many different ways you could actually crochet it together, and this is just how I like to do it with this project. You could also sew the pieces together. You could only pick up the inner loops and crochet it together like that, or use single crochet. As I said, there are many different ways. I'm just showing you one option how to do it. So I am continuing with this method for the whole side. Okay, so I like the size of the slit I have left here. So what I'm going to do now is maybe do one last stitch, chain one, snip the yarn, pull it through and pull it tight. So the seams are together now, and I think especially when you turn it inside out, it looks really nice. Now it's time for the waistband. So what I'm going to do now is create the waistband by doing single crochet all around the top part. So starting off again with the slip knot, like I always do, putting it on the hook, pulling it tight and getting the hook out again. I am grabbing my project, and it doesn't really matter at what point you are starting. I'm gonna go a little bit to the right of my seam here, so when I start crocheting I can lay down those two loose threads and weave them in as I go. I could also start right here, but I'm choosing to go right here, inserting my hook at some point at the very end of the project. Again, this is the side of the rows we did right here, so they are not super significant stitches you can go into. Again, here I am trying to keep an even distance while I crochet my way around. So I'm inserting my hook, grabbing the loop, pulling it through and chaining one. Now I have the starting point to do single crochets all around. I'm also taking that tail and laying it on top of where I'm working, so I'm also weaving that in as I go. So inserting my hook into the project, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through too. Next space, and as you can see here I am holding this piece of yarn, like the little end on top. So when I do my single crochet, it lays in between and it gets weaved in the further I go. This connecting part is a little bit more tricky, but I'm just gonna go right in the middle of this, do another single crochet, and I'm going to meet you again when I am right where I started this round. Okay, so I'm basically back at the beginning. I have one stitch left. Oh no, another one. Now I'm going to insert my hook into the very first single crochet, yarn over, pull through, and then pull that through the loop on my hook. And that's one round completed. Now I'm going to chain 2 and do double crochets all the way around into every stitch. So yarning over, inserting my hook into the very first stitch, yarning over, pull through, yarning over, pull through 2, yarning over, pull through 2. And again, yarn over, next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's what I'm going to do for the whole round until I'm at the start again. So I am again at the start of that row of double crochet. One last stitch. I'm going to insert my hook into the very top part of the very first double crochet, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through the loop on my hook already. And I'm going to do the same once again, starting off with a chain 2 and then doing a round of double crochet into every stitch. And I'm going to meet you again when I'm back at the start. I'm at the end of the row again, one last stitch. And again, I'm inserting my hook into the very top of the very first double crochet, yarning over, pulling through, and pulling through the loop on the hook like this. So I have a row of single crochet, double crochet, and I will finish off the waistband by doing one last row with single crochet. So I'm chaining 1 to start and then doing single crochet all around. After that, the only thing left to do is do the ties to cinch everything together, and then we're done. So I'm going to meet you again when I am done with the row of single crochet. So I'm at the end of my single crochet row. So last stitch. Now I'm inserting my hook into the very first stitch of the row, yarning over, pulling through, pulling that through the loop on my hook, chaining 1, snipping the yarn, pull it through and pull it tight. And that is the waistband done. The only thing left to do is making 2 chains that are long enough to go around your waist or your hips, depending on where you decided you want the skirt to sit, and then having a little bit extra to tie it into a knot or a bow. I'm going to make 2 ties, one that I will thread through the upper row of double crochets and one that I'm going to thread through the bottom double crochet. But I'm going to show you how I put it all together when we get there. So I am again starting with a slip knot and then crocheting a chain that is long enough to go, in my case, around my waist, and then leaving a little bit extra to be able to tie it into a bow. Alright, so when I put on the regular skirt now, I have threaded through both of the chains that I've made, and like this in the upper row of the double crochet and the bottom row of the double crochet, always skipping 2 double crochets and then going into the next one and then weaving it through like this and bringing them together like that. So now I can either do a knot like this on the top and at the bottom, or what I like to do is just grab both at the same time and do one big bow. So like this. And that skirt is done. So for anyone who already knows a lot of the basics in crochet, or you want to make the project again and just need a little quick reminder on how this skirt is constructed, here's the speed explanation. So for the wrap skirt, chain as long as you like the skirt to be, and keep in mind that there's going to be a small little waistband added to the length. Then choose the stitch you want to use. I used a half double crochet for the whole project and also for the other skirt. and do as many rows as it takes to wrap yourself around it 1.5 times. Then the main panel is done. After that, go to the waistband. Start off by doing 1 row of single crochet. Then the next row is going to be a row of double crochet. When you get to the end of the panel, extend that row by chaining as long as it takes to wrap yourself around it until it meets the other side of the panel. Go back with a single crochet up to the main project, continue with the single crochet up until you get to the other side of the panel. Here you also extend that row and go back with a single crochet up until the main project and secure with a slip stitch. And that's how you connect those two at the end and do a little tie. And that's the wrap skirt done. So for the regular skirt, chain as long as you'd like the project to be, and keep in mind that you're gonna have a little bit of a waistband that's a little bit thicker than the wrap skirt. Then choose your stitch of choice. I used a half double crochet for the whole panel, and then do as many rows as it takes for it to wrap around your body so that it sits comfortably at the widest point of your hips. After that, crochet or sew the side seams together. If you like, you can leave a little slip on the side. And then after that, go to the waistband. 1 row of single crochet, 1 row of double crochet, then another double crochet, and then ending this waistband with another round of single crochet. Then you're going to do 2 chains that are going to be weaved in the upper and the lower row of double crochet. So you can tie them together in the end and they will cinch your waist or wherever you'd like the project to sit. And that's the regular skirt done. Someone's calling me. I'm so popular. Words are still hard. I'm out of breath from walking up to the camera and back. Jesus, am I okay? I'm gonna explain it one more time. I just said ties like 500 times.